So welcome to the What's Arising podcast. Before we begin, I'm going to invite you to become fully present into the conversation, into the inner and outer conversation that might be going on within you. I'm going to invite you into what's arising. To do this, I'm going to ring my Tibetan bowl 3 times. The first time, I invite you to really deeply, as best you can, connect with yourself and all the inner experience of you in this moment. Become fully present to your body, your thoughts, your emotions, whatever is arising within you. The second time I ring the bowl, I invite you to reach out with your energy to your ancestors, to humanity as a whole, your family, friends, your country, may it be, all of these living connections with other human beings, past, present, and future. And the third ring, I invite you to become present and what's arising within all that is, your connection to the earth, the animals, the plants, the solar system, the universe, and the unseen world of spirit, whatever that means for you. And I'll ring my bell now, once for self, once for humanity and human relations, and the third for all that is. What's arising for me, what's very present for me today, is the idea or the happening of the great surrender. I feel in my bones that we as human beings are going through, or are being invited to go through, a great surrender. To surrender our stories, our narratives, our wounds, our defense, and allow some new way of being to come into our world. Now, that's not new. Most people are saying there's something arising within humanity, a new leap in evolution to some other place, another unfolding of the human experience, another leap in evolution. And we can look certainly at these times as being not looking like that at all. These, for many people, feel like very, very dark times, and I could agree. We are going to be, probably for a while, in very dark times. We can see this unfolding in wars. This week, the war in Israel with the Hamas unfolding there. We also have the Ukraine war We have all kinds of pressure. We're in a pressure cooker and chaos, and I think that's just going to increase, just get even worse for a while. The social unrest, as we have issues with economics, with climate change, whatever perspective you're coming from, with government control and overreach, with drugs, with failing institutions. Need I go on? There's lots happening. And depending on where you're sitting and what issues you're concerned about, there's lots going on and lots to either shelter yourself away from or get involved with from either your emotional story or to help in some ways. I would say that we are in a dark night of the soul. This is a spiritual expression where someone goes through such deep, deep trials down to the level maybe of absolute despair. That can be a moment, that can be a day, that can be years that happens. And that depends, I think, on our ability as individuals, our capacity to surrender. And if we go so far, we're continually pushed right to the very edge, and we can continue to resist and not surrender, it gets worse and worse and worse. If that's what our soul's mission is to do, is to surrender, there is no relief, in a sense. We are pushed to the brink. And then something happens at the brink. Something lets go, if we're allowed it to do it. When we hit that rock bottom, some light comes in, and usually, from what I understand, it's a brilliant light that casts out all the darkness, all the fear, at least for a little while. And there is an experience of freedom, maybe unconditional love, and a capacity to see the world in a completely different way. There's a change in consciousness that for an individual, there's a before and an after. If people become awakened in this world, many times I think it comes from going through a dark night, or at least that's the start of the path to spirit, to finding out who we truly are. Surrender is core. Surrendering to what wants to unfold versus resisting and holding on to the old story. So that's what I feel we're going into. We're going as a human experience where we're in this pressure cooker, in this chaos, in order for us to surrender and accept what wants to arise in our human evolution. What wants to arise is greater freedom, letting go of all of or many of our wounds, coming back to going beyond what we were before in our care of each other, going towards unconditional love, realizing that we are all connected. But how can we do that when we're holding on to so much pain and unwilling to forgive, unwilling to see how we are complicit in the old story, how we are holding on to the trauma and the shadows and the fears that are creating this experience for ourselves, our communities, and our world. There is so much to surrender. All of the stuff that our ancestors went through from the beginning of time, all that wounding that is built up and has come to the brink today in this great surrender. In thinking about surrender, the other day a question came to my mind is, surrender, it's it's so hard for people to even go in that direction. What is it that blocks us from doing the inner work as individuals or humanity? What is it that prevents us from forgiveness? Why do we want to hold on so tightly to our unforgiveness of ourselves and others that we're completely unwilling to do this work, even though not doing it is poisoning us, poisoning our families, poisoning all of our relationships, and poisoning our human experience with suffering? Why do we hold on so tightly? Why is it so hard to surrender? So with that question, I had an interesting experience afterwards. In the last couple of weeks, I was working with an individual, and he was someone who felt very unsafe. So this idea of not feeling safe was arising with him, and I wanted to help him, or feel called to help him get to the bottom of that. But there was this resistance that showed up, this resistance to going deeply into the core of what was this unsafety was all about, and letting go, going directly to the wound. And what arose was the defender. Surrender, defender, this protector, this part that was keeping him safe from experiencing, from feeling all of that. So I took this same idea, I felt called to take this same idea into looking at the defender and the relationship between me and the collective energy of humanity and this defender protector energy. And I decided to work with it this morning and my relationship to that. In looking at the defender and what it was protecting me from, I felt the anguish in humanity, the deep, deep fear, anxiety, helplessness, hopelessness, the fear of not being able to survive, all of the things that cause us suffering in this human experience. The wounds that we've gone through, and how the protector, the defender, helps us to hide those wounds and protect us from going there by distracting us, giving us fear, to not open up those wounds, because this protector feels that would be too much for us to bear, to open up those wounds, and it's painful emotionally. So it protects us from going there, does everything it can to protect us from going into the wound because of its perceived danger there. The protector also saves us from, or tries to protect us from all those things in the future, all those unknowns that are unfolding. Oh my God, this could happen and this could happen. And so the anxiety comes up about the future, the fear of the future and the unknown, and survival into the future. The process led me to thank the protector for its perceived role in protecting me from opening up the wounds of the past and protecting me from the future by keeping me safe, closing my doors, locking my doors. And I'm speaking also for humanity, maybe more than myself, because this was a collective experience, and I've gone through many of these, examining many of these doors and windows that I've closed and opened them up again. But part of this human experience, this is the task at hand, is to surrender our defenses and open up the doors and windows once again. I noticed that this defender, this protector, was exhausted. Absolutely exhausted when I checked in with it. There's so much for it to do. All these things from the past, all these things in the future, and quite frankly, it was only meant to protect us in the present, not the past, not the future. It's this warning system of something's not right here. It's this gut feel that something doesn't feel safe here, and to put our attention towards the present to protect us in that moment. It was never meant to protect us from all these future things and protect us from processing the past. So it's completely exhausted. It's working overtime. It's like an autoimmune disease that is out of control and attacking us to keep us safe, just like the immune system does when it overreacts. An inflammation that is growing and growing and growing within us as individuals and the collective. And it's coming to a place of exhaustion, but it's not exhausted yet, or hasn't been. So we resist and we defend in that role that the defender has been given. And I saw that the defender was only meant to protect us in the presence, in the present time, in the now. So what I did was relieve it of its responsibilities. I said, hey, you don't need to protect me from the past. I need to go there. I need to surrender what's there. I need to go in and open that up and face that. And on the other side of that, there is light. I need to shine light into those places. It's not your role to protect me there. It's okay. I can do that. And I looked at the future and I said, you don't have to protect me from that either. That hasn't happened yet. There's so many possibilities of joy as well as danger out there. And the only place that you can really help me is in the moment. So you don't have to protect me there. You can let go. You can be on my team and warn me about the present moments, but let me take back my responsibility, my fears for the future and my fears for the past, and let me shine light in those. The future doesn't exist, the past doesn't exist, but yes, I'm carrying this bag of wounds, these bag of shadows and parts that I've disliked, and I want to re-embrace them, shine light on them, go into them. Don't protect me from that. The defender part of me when I did this was quite relaxed and happy. Such a relief that it did not have to have this expanded role. It was so exhausted. And there was a bit of joy there. And then I looked at the place of surrender. Could I surrender and move forward? Could I surrender all my story again as a collective and go forward into trusting life, to knowing that I'm safe right now, here and now, in this experience of life, at my core self, my spiritual self, I'm safe. that I can trust, that the unknown is not scary. I don't have to fear the future. And it's like the energy of surrender was not even there anymore. It was so calm, so easy. It was just stepping into the flow of life and the trust of life. The challenge with surrender is the defender, our defenses, right at the edge, that difficult, chaotic edge that on the other side there's tremendous growth, learning, and joy, and there's this, oh my God, if I go there, what could happen? And this fear of going beyond the boundaries and stories of who we think we are into that expanded self. This edge, this is where humanity is bumping up against. We have our old story, which is so painful, so much in suffering, and it's going to get worse because, in a sense, humanity is still attached to the old story, still attached to what others have done to us or doing to us, still attached to the victim, still attached to our suffering and afraid of the unknown. If we let go of all that, if we forgave, if we let our defenses down and truly surrendered all these energies, would we be safe? What could happen then? And from my own experience, I can tell you that what happens then is light. This may feel like a storm right now, a brutal storm, but light will come. The sun will arise. It always arises. There is always sunshine after the darkness. There is always light, clarity, joy on the other side of a dark night, unless we resist. If we continue to resist, if we continue to drop and stay in the story of fear, there's where the danger is. The danger is not in what can happen if we don't defend ourselves. It's what can happen if we hold on and don't surrender. The wounds poison us. Unforgiveness poisons us. We need to let go. And I know how hard that is. I've done 10 or more years of deep shadow work with every person that I thought needed forgiveness, especially myself, and with every energy that I was in opposition to, that I'm aware of so far, and there'll be more. This is an unfolding as we become more and more aware of our fears. There's an invitation within that, as we notice that arising within ourselves, that trigger. There's an invitation to surrender and let go, to let go of our defenses and just melt into that. And in this dissolving of those fears, there's light, there's joy, always. So, this is where humanity is going. And what can you do within this? What can I do within this? The best way that we can help is to do our own work. We are part of this collective. And every time one of us does some of this work, this inner work of surrender, letting go of the defense, working with the core wound, because we carry the core wound of our ancestors, of our lifetimes, as a reflection of the holographic pattern of the collective humanity. When we do that work ourselves, we cannot help but ease the surrendering process for the consciousness of humanity. So I invite you to do the work with whatever is arising in the darkness of your life, whatever is arising that looks like suffering and victim, or the other side, the perpetrator. Whatever whatever is ours to do in this lifetime of ours, I invite you to do the work. Mostly because on the other side of each of these trials, there's joy. There's happiness. There's freedom. I invite you to surrender. And together, in this surrendering individually, we will ease the pain and suffering of the world in this great collective surrender for humanity. The phoenix rising out of the ashes to become the zenith of human peace and love. Thank you for listening to this podcast. I invite you to notice what's arising now and continue to notice what's arising, whether it be joy or a trigger, darkness. These are all wonderful aspects of the human experience and filled with possibility.